SuperTalk Mississippi Media production.
This is Gerard Gibert, and thank you for listening to MidDays here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
MidDays with Gerard Gibert is on the air. MidDays with Gerard Gibert is powered by C-Spire. Power your home or business with C-Spire Fiber. To learn more, visit supertalk.fm/C-Spire. C-Spire Fiber powers SuperTalk Mississippi. Get ready to go beyond the headlines and join a meaningful conversation with people from around the state. You're listening to MidDays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Everyone, and welcome to Midday SuperTalk Mississippi. I'm your host, Gerard Gibert, along with Will East in the Element Wealth Studio, guiding you through the middle of your day with facts, fodder, and fine music. Morning there, Will.
Good morning. It's a warm one.
It is, man. It's not the way it's supposed to be in November. I understand, though, some fronts coming through, and it's going to cool it off a little bit Thanksgiving week.
Okay, well, I'll take that.
Yeah, I know the hunters are certainly interested in it cooling off a little bit as well.
So get those deer moving.
Yeah, absolutely. And the ducks will be flying here pretty soon, I believe, as well. So I talked to some friends yesterday that are getting their duck hunting.
Getting their ducks in a row?
Yeah, getting their ducks in a row. Love it. So we're all buckled up, ready to go, though. I have survived the tire gate on Friday. I appreciate you and the team for covering while I was out on 55 trying to get the tire. Man, what an ordeal that was.
Did it just blow flat, or?
I mean, I'm just cruising along there on 55, and I felt a little bit, but all of a sudden I got the notification, on the information screen, and it said, you got 5 pounds of pressure in the left front tire. So I was just south of Tillatoba Road there, which is 25 or so miles south of Batesville. And in good shape, by the way, to get to the site by about 9:15. And Houston always likes that because he stays nervous all the time about me getting there on time. So I pulled over. I knew there was a truck stop there. Unfortunately, thinking maybe I could put some air in it, and limp my way on to Oxford and do the show and take care of it afterwards. But unfortunately, the air pump machine was out of order so, at the truck stop there. So I said, well, maybe I check the map, get up to the next exit. I can't remember what it is, but it was a few miles up the road. But, man, when that thing said 3 pounds of pressure, after about a mile, I pulled over. Yeah. And on the side of the 55 there, and then let the team know, hey, guys, I'm stuck on 55. So I appreciate you filling in and taking care of that.
It never happens at a good time.
No.
I had the same situation last week.
Okay.
Similar situation, I guess. I walked out to my truck. I had a busy morning that morning. I'm running out my front door to my truck, and I get it. And as I walk by, I noticed that my truck is leaning a little bit.
Not a good feeling.
That's not good. Sure enough, my tire is completely flat, and my spare was missing a part. So I couldn't get the spare on, so I had to have it towed. It never happens at a good time.
No, it doesn't. And so shout out to Gateway Tires in Oxford. And I'll tell you why. So I called them. When I finally got to the site, I took a minute to call them just to make sure they could take care of me after the show and wanted to know the size of my tire. So I told them, and they said, yep, we got that in stock. Just come on by. Take care of you. So I went by after the show, and the person there that works the counter said, well, I heard you talking about this on the show.
Yeah.
And a fan of the show, and put me right in.
That's because of J.T. Williamson. J.T. and Gateway always had a tremendous relationship.
Well, we appreciate that. So J.T.'s relationship came in handy for me for sure. So he kind of wrangled me in there to the top of the line, took care of me. I was on my way. So shout out to those guys for taking care of me. It was a good deal. And the banking symposium, always a fun one for me. I of course, enjoy that subject matter. We had a great guest lineup. That was a lot of fun, talking to everybody and about the banking industry. But, you know, you can't overemphasize what a big deal it is for the state of Mississippi and certainly up there in Oxford at Ole Miss to host this big event, which was absolutely jam-packed at the Oxford Conference Center. I think Dr. Cyree said they had attendees from 21 states in. Mm-hmm. So that's a really big deal. Hats off to Dr. Cyree, the Dean of the School of Business at the university, and, of course, the Bankers Association, Gordon Fellows, our good friend on the program on a regular basis, and some of these other high-profile executives in the banking industry. Really enjoy talking to them. So all good to go, buckled up here in the Element Wealth studio, and a lot of stuff happened, of course, over the weekend. Now, something that we wanted to pass on is the FAA lifts all remaining flight cuts imposed during the shutdown. It looks like that, according to Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, we're back to normal today, normal operations, and that, again, related to the FAA lifting the flight cuts. So during the shutdown, when we had limited resources from a TSA and air traffic control perspective, the FAA ordered commercial airlines to reduce their flights, just cancel some of them, reduce their overall traffic so that they could safely accommodate air travel. But as of this morning, that's been lifted. So I know that's really good news for those planning to travel via commercial air over the Thanksgiving holidays, just 2 weeks away. So really big news there. And then the president, in a rather sharp reversal, announced that House Republicans should vote to release the Epstein files. Didn't see this coming. He says, quote, "We have nothing to hide, and it's time to move on from the Democrat hoax perpetrated by radical left lunatics in order to deflect from the great success of the Republican Party." That's what he wrote on his social media platform late last night. This was right after he landed at Joint Base Andrews, following spending some time down at his facility, his homestead in Florida. So there's been a bit of a fracture in the GOP as to how to handle these Epstein files, and now the president says, hey, let them go. Get them out there. You know, I would like to see this thing put to bed. I think this is
I'm tired of hearing that.
Sucking up a lot of oxygen, as the saying goes, and this is not what our Congress needs to be dealing with. Let's get them out there. Let's figure out what wrongdoing, if any, occurred. Don't want to accuse anybody of anything, allegedly. And if people need to suffer the consequences and pay the price for that, let's do it in accordance with the law and move on, man.
There's so many more important things out there.
Yeah, totally. This week also, your markets, your money's not looking good today. The Dow down 227, the NASDAQ 106. Investors still not really sure what to think about the prospect of interest rates being pulled back, especially with no data with respect to jobs and inflation for the month of October, because the government was shut down. Thus, the agency that computes and publishes those data points did not do so for the month of October. Likely, according to Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, we will never see October data. So investors, again, little spooked by that and not sure what to make of it.
Because if it was good, they'd be releasing it.
Yeah, you would think so. But, you know, as I've said so many times, I have a low level of confidence in that information. And the president finally figured that out as well, right? A couple of months ago. when he fired some people that are involved in that.
Because they would always revise the.
It's hard. It's virtually impossible to collect that employment data. Inflation's a little easier because that's you're not relying on people to answer the phone or respond to surveys, not only individuals but companies as well. It's a little easier to calculate the CPI and the inflation figures. You rarely ever see that revised. But the jobs numbers, yeah, you can just expect it, count on it. Now it's an eye roll when they release it. So, again, investors not crazy about that. And then I know Rhino would be interested in knowing where the funny money is. It is really taking a hit lately. I think last check, Bitcoin down to about 92,000, and so that's a problem for a lot of those investors who bought in the $100,000 and up range. The market cap of Bitcoin, I will point out, I still think it's going to be a critical part of our economy. The market cap of Bitcoin exceeds that of gold. Wouldn't have thought you'd have seen that. Think about that. Digital currency, yeah, it's 93,000 a day. Lower than the market cap of hard, fast, physical gold. We're coming right back in the Element Wealth studio today. It's Matt Dowell at 11:05. He's the executive director of the Golden Triangle Regional Airport. Stay with us.
Think for a moment about...
This segment of Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
Now back to Middays with Gerard here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Jump up! Get it! Hey!
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Wealth Studio. Are you thinking about retirement? Do you have a plan? Go to myelementwealth.com or call 601-957-6006 to let Element Wealth help you find your balance between income, growth, and guarantees. The C-Spire text line, it, of course, is wide open, 601-879-4395 if you'd like to join the conversation. So on the C-Spire text line, let's see. After being late because of a wreck and then you have a flat tire, all I could think was get this man to the chopper.
Get to the chopper.
So 5 years, never been late. 2 days in a row.
2 days. It's the way it works.
It's unbelievable.
It's the way I thought it was a joke when I first got the text. I was like, oh, they just put me on because of what happened yesterday. No, it's true. You mentioned this to me earlier. I want to hear about you meeting the governor of Florida.
Yeah, what a cool thing that was. The governor of Florida was in attendance at the Florida Ole Miss game. Spent a little time in the Grove, did the governor, Ron DeSantis. And then he hunkered down for the game in the Chancellor's Suite in the south end zone. And mine is 3 down from the Chancellor. And I always stop by and just shake hands and say hello to everybody in there before I make my way down to our suite. And saw him in there, and had my photo taken with him and had a little conversation, little just back and forth. It was fun. It was interesting, just talking about the situation and mainly at the federal level, and he's talking about the border, being closed and so forth. Yeah, in a positive way. Just a couple of minutes, no big deal. And Congressman Michael Guest, also Trent Kelly in attendance as well. Attorney General Lynn Fitch, saw her in the suite. And he was sad, I hope, when he left Oxford because the Gators went down. Also, you probably noticed that Ole Miss played at the end of the game. I actually captured it on video. One of your favorite artists, Tom Petty, won't back down. I believe they play that, if I'm not mistaken, in Gainesville.
They do, because
Petty from Gainesville.
He's
right?
from Gainesville,
yeah.
and I think he either went to the University of Florida for a little bit, or at least worked at the University of Florida.
I think that's right. Yeah. So, Ole Miss kind of rubbed it in their nose a little bit and fired up. And the whole stadium was singing it, Will. I don't know if you caught that or not. And a lot of people stayed, savoring the victory, of course. That's pretty neat, though. That's beautiful weather, great game, great victory, but cranking up to Tom Petty. I give it to the marketing folks. I thought they did an outstanding job. There's companies that do that, right? That sort of orchestrate all the music and all the activities during the game.
So the real question is, why was he here?
Was he going to pull an Edwards deal in Louisiana?
Was he just a guest?
I don't know exactly. I'm assuming he was the guest of the chancellor.
Because that happens from time. Governors and
sure.
statewide elected officials will go to different. I remember seeing Rick Perry at a game.
I met him when he came. Phil Bryant was escorting him around. He was as well a guest in the chancellor's box. Brought him by my suite and talked to him a little bit. Yeah, that's not unusual to see. I think I remember seeing Steve Scalise in the box during the LSU game.
Especially if they're of the same party of the.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll see that. So that's not unusual. They reciprocate. It goes back and forth. That's pretty cool, though. Got a chance to talk to him. That was really neat. I got to share this with you as well. I got a call during the show Friday. You know how this stuff works. You're in the media business. From someone representing News Corp. News Corp is the parent company of a number of news outlets. The Wall Street Journal is probably their biggest one. The New York Post, another platform, one of my favorite papers, by the way, the New York Post.
I love them.
News Corp, and they also own several outlets in the UK and in Australia.
It's Murdoch's.
Yeah, company. That's right. News Corp. That's exactly right. But the logos under their umbrella are impressive and extensive. I was a little surprised at how many are underneath the News Corp.
Fox.
Yeah. The Fox has, they have a major holding in Fox, I believe. I'm not sure if they still do or not. I know that's kind of gone back and forth. But nonetheless, News Corp, Wall Street Journal, Realtor.com, MarketWatch, Barron's, Investors Business Daily, Dow Jones, all the above. Well, they also own, as I said, several publications in the UK. 4 or 5. One of those
they used to own Sky News.
That's right, sure did, and they own some in Australia. But in the UK, interestingly enough, they own the Sun, which that and the BBC are vie for kind of the top spot as far as the newspaper platforms. Apparently, the BBC has slightly more of the paper version of their paper than the Sun does their paper. But when you add the Sun's digital platform, they exceed the readership, the subscription base of the BBC. Well, I get a call from this person saying, I'm from News Corp, and I couldn't take the call. It was during the show. And I called him on a break, and she asked if I'd be interested in doing an interview with a guy named Harry Cole, who is a big journalist for the Sun in the UK. Well, they're establishing an American presence. Okay, so Harry decided to do a story, his team, on the great success we've experienced in the state of Mississippi from an economic and education perspective. And here's what's getting the attention of the Brits, is the fact, I've talked about on the show, that our per capita GDP now exceeds that of the UK, exceeds that of overall the EU, and now neck and neck with Germany, which has historically had the highest per capita GDP. So you got the poorest state in the country making some significant gains, as we did last year. We had the second fastest growing per capita GDP. That got their attention.
So if Mississippi was its own country.
Yes, it's per capita, not its overall GDP, because there's 60 million people in England, right? And I don't know how many in Germany, probably 35 or 40. So we're still much smaller. Naturally, we're not going to have. But when you look at the output per person, that's an important metric. Yes. We just hit that level. So every state in the United States has a per capita GDP that exceeds that of Britain, that of the EU, that of the largest economy in the EU, that being Germany. We must be doing something right. And I would argue they lean so heavily into socialism and they opened their dang borders wide up. So that got their attention. And they started searching for somebody in Mississippi to talk to about this. Somehow I got identified. Now, I believe they also spoke to the speaker, if I'm not mistaken. And I think maybe Douglas Carswell, because some of those guys knew Douglas, of course, who's head of Mississippi Center for Public Policy. And I think they went to Ole Miss and they were going to interview a couple of students. So this guy, Harry Cole, has a YouTube broadcast called Harry Cole Saves the West, I believe is what it's called. And it's published on YouTube in the U.S., and it's published on, I believe it's called Talk TV in the UK. So pretty neat. I didn't bother to ask. I probably should have. How'd you find me, out of all this? Mm-hmm. Harry Cole Saves the West. That's the YouTube channel. Honored. So here's what they want to do, Will. They called me during the show. I called them back, and they said, look, we're going to be in town. We're coming in tonight. Can you do this interview tonight, Friday night? Or what about tomorrow before they headed up to Oxford to visit up there? And I said, well, sure, let's just work it out. Okay, we'll call you tonight. So they called me about 8 o'clock Friday night, literally. We just landed, and we set it up for Saturday morning, and they wanted to do it at the Capitol. So met them at the Capitol at 10 o'clock. The photographer, the crew, the producer, and Harry Cole, and they filmed us walking on the south side of the Capitol up to the big set of steps with the Liberty Bell replicas there and so forth. And then we sat on a bench, and we had about a 30-minute interview. It was a blast. I love bragging about the great state of Mississippi and especially the people of the state of Mississippi. So I look forward to that publishing. Yeah. That's going to be pretty neat. So great distinction for us and in the state of Mississippi for Super Talk. It's going to be fun. We're coming right back in the Element Well studio.
From the Seabrook. You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert, here on Super Talk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Well studio on the C Spire text line. That was Nathan from Smith County, by the way, that said I needed a chopper. He said, we have a giant decision to make when having to replace Governor Reeves. This is such an important decision for Mississippi to me. Everything he has done and got started will need a very strong and economically smart person to take over. I'm so excited for Mississippi's growth. Sorry. Oh, yeah, got it. Appreciate that, Nathan. Agreed. I think the governor has been hyper-focused on economic development and has scored some significant wins in that regard, which I do think will be transformative for the state. And I believe the governor should be hyper-focused on economic development and should serve as the state's chief economic development officer and the primary cheerleader and ambassador for the state. That would be that role. Let's see here. On the C Spire text line, was the governor there? I did not see him on Saturday, so I don't know. It doesn't mean he wasn't, but he certainly didn't notice him in the chancellor's suite. So I don't know. I did run into, I think I said, Congressman Michael Guest, Attorney General Lynn Fidge, Congressman Trent Kelly. They were all in attendance. I saw them, Senator Daniel Sparks, Senator Nicole Akins-Boyd, who was just on the show the day before at the banking symposium. I did run into those folks. So on the C Spire text line, Ron, talking about Ron DeSantis, was there hoping to help lure Coach Kiffin to Florida. Don't go, Coach. That's Isabella Mariscalco. Yeah, he is kind of leaving us in limbo here, isn't he, Will, what his future holds?
Yeah, that's the big talk around.
It is.
It's frustrated a lot of people, and it's probably the biggest story going on in the state of Mississippi right now, to be honest with you.
Could be.
Because it impacts everybody.
It does.
You got people that are wanting him to go.
Yeah.
You got people that want him to stay, and he's being mum's the word, I guess.
Well, it's the same old thing that I've talked about with respect to business decision making. You got to have faith, confidence, and certainty. When you're just in a state of flux like that, it's just hard to move on and hard to make decisions and hard to function, hard to proceed. And right now, that's kind of where we are, in a big state of flux. And, of course, this is all exacerbated by the ease at which players can move about, right, between programs. Absolutely. With the NIL and just the ability to easily transfer, which used to be you'd sign a letter of intent on signing day, you were pretty much there. But not anymore. That whole game has changed quite a bit. And then you add to that, combine that with the massive amount of money that's been infused into college football. Just amazing.
That's what astounds me, Gerard, is I don't know where the breaking point is, but at some point, some university somewhere is going to hit it.
Well,
the buyouts, the amount of money that is being committed, and it's obscene almost.
I think that what may happen is we may see a really sharp dividing line between. Very precise dividing line between the haves and the have-nots. And the have-nots may just forego their athletic programs, may just totally eliminate them. Just can't make the economics work. It's not viable. That may happen. So it's the old rich get richer, and they may be the survivors, honestly, in college athletics, and in particular college football. And wouldn't surprise to see that some of the smaller programs just can't keep up and just dump it. Sports altogether. This, by the way, that's not the first time that's come up. You remember, I remember University of California at Berkeley, wasn't too long ago, we're looking at dropping, I think, their baseball program. And they typically are pretty good. And some alumni stepped up to provide some funds for that. What's UAB? What'd they do? Didn't they drop
UAB dropped football for a little while. Now they brought it back.
Yeah.
But football's probably the most expensive one because it has such a large roster and all the stuff that it takes to service it. But a lot of these Olympic sports, I think they'll go away with some universities. Now,
totally
you got some
agree.
Title IX issues in there, but it's the amount of money is obscene. And Michael Borky from Sports Talk Mississippi always kind of emphasizes this point. All this stuff, the loser in all this is the fans.
Yeah,
the people
I agree.
who are paying the actual money to go to the games and fund all this stuff, they're the ones who lose out.
I agree.
Because, as you know now, it's more expensive than ever to go to a game.
Yes, it is.
In fact, you've had universities that have, thought about expanding their stadium, but then cut back and said, you know what, that doesn't make sense because we can't fill the stadium anymore.
Yeah.
It's so easy to watch it from home.
Well, winning is what puts the rear ends in the seats. There's no doubt about that. And that also is a huge boost to the economies.
And it's a huge boost to the universities. I mean,
big time.
Ole Miss is a prime example of that.
Yes.
I mean, because of the success of the football team, it has attracted more students. So there's this balancing act that has to go on.
It's interesting you say that. When I attended about 6 weeks or so ago, Brylan Hollyhan that came to Oxford, part of the TPUSA system, and he came in. This was about, a month or so before we just had J.D. Vance and Erica Kirk on campus. But he came, and I happened to be sitting. I attended, and this was in the Union. It's about 500 people in the Union ballroom. And I happened to be sitting to 3 students, 3 guys. And I just happened to ask them, hey, where are you guys from? I could tell they weren't, based on their accent, from Mississippi. All 3 from Colorado.
They were going to Ole Miss?
Yeah. I mean, they're students right now. So I asked them, well, what brought you here? He said, football. Said it. I mean, didn't even hesitate. Yeah, football, in particular SEC football. Because I'm thinking, well, the football isn't bad in Colorado, you know. But, yeah, it's exactly what they said. You watch Alabama. Oh, my gosh, what happened to Tuscaloosa in the state of Alabama after Nick Saban came into town? Because the program was kind of floundering. He comes in, of course, puts national championships on the boards. The boost that had and the effect that had on the university, Tuscaloosa, the state of Alabama, it's undeniable. You simply cannot argue against the fact that his success has had a tremendous positive impact on the entire state, including Tuscaloosa and the university. You're right. It's a magnet. People want to be part of, winning, and it's fun. It's no fun to lose a lot, and you tend to lose interest. So it's amazing how that has become such a critical component, I guess, of the college experience and college recruiting and college finances. Heck, when I was up there, of course, that's a long time ago, I think we had 8,000 enrolled on campus, and it's 20 now. And look, all the colleges in Mississippi are enjoying enrollment, bucking the national trends. Yeah. Expanded enrollment in Mississippi. We have great universities, great community colleges. So this is a good trend, a good thing to see, and preparing them for the jobs of the future. And we're creating the jobs of the future due to our success in economic development. Something I talked about in my interview with the folks from the Sun, the British publication. Really fun. It's kind of neat to do an interview, by the way, Will, with somebody with that very distinctive English accent. The producer in particular, really nice female, she had a really refined, English accent. That's kind of cool.
It's a little intimidating almost.
It is, but think about sitting on the bench there at the foot of the Capitol steps of Mississippi, and that's just neat, to do that. And I was trying to show them around the various buildings in the Capitol complex and, what goes on. And by the way, there was like a walk, I think, going on. I don't remember what organization, a charity-type organization that was doing once. There was lots of people walking up the street, and they were asking about that. And you could see Capitol Police vehicles and Capitol Police officers around, and I was telling them about how we just did that. So with expanding the Capitol complex, pretty neat, though. Really, really cool stuff. Speaking of the Capitol complex, the president wants to paint the Roosevelt Building, which is just to the west of the White House. That is where we did the show back in April when we were invited to be part of the Radio Row event. Remember that? Tuesday after.
What color is it now? Is it just brick?
It's stone. It's your standard sort of gray type stone. I don't know what kind of stone it is exactly, but that building's old, and that's the way we built buildings in those days. There's no paint on it. It's just the natural color of the stone. I think he wants to paint it white to make it match the White House, which is just the two buildings are separated by a street that is secure. It's blocked off. You can't enter that street. It's actually part of the White House compound, if you will. But he announced that, he wants to paint that building. That building's big. That's where the cabinet secretaries and their organizations hang out, and just other executive office branches of government. They're kind of located in that building. It's big. We're stepping aside for a break. We're coming right back in the Element Well studio. Again, Matt Dowell with the Golden Triangle Airport at 11:05.
You're listening to Middays with Gerard here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Southern nights. Have you ever felt a southern night? free as a breeze, not to mention the trees.
The great Glenn Campbell. Welcome back, everyone. Middays from the Element Wealth Studio. Ben from Madison on the C Spire text line says, haven't heard much from the Lieutenant Governor since the session ended outside of the Public Employees Retirement System, a.k.a. PERS. Do we know any other big issues the Senate plans to take up? They've been doing some meetings, Ben, concerning higher ed, K-12 and higher ed, pay raises for teachers as a priority. The Lieutenant Governor is also highly focused on the problem of chronic student absenteeism, wants to perhaps increase the number and pay of school attendance officers in every district. That's been the primary focus of the Lieutenant Governor at this point. I haven't heard much with respect to the issue of school choice, which the Speaker has made clear is his high-profile target for the coming 2026 session. That's his priority, is Speaker of the House Jason White. No secret as far as that is concerned. And then you can check out an article at our website. Our news department did a great job of summarizing the governor's priorities for the upcoming session. Of course, the tax reform, which has been a high priority for some time, specifically eliminating the income tax, that's a done deal. That's in the books. So, and look, both chambers and the governor still highly focused on everything and anything related to workforce development, and the governor made that clear as well. The governor, of course, as we indicated, focused on economic development, is also looking at ways to expand our energy output and footprint. You know, his Power Up initiative is one of those that is focusing on that. And then also site development. No doubt, it's key. When you get potential suitors looking to set up shop in a state, they look for sites for construction of whatever that facility might be it a factory or a distribution facility, a data center, whatever the case. And just like is the case when folks are readying their personal residence for sale, the realtors will all tell you, make it look like somebody can move in today, and enjoy it tonight. So the same applies in economic development. When you have sites that don't require too much imagination, and especially if the prospects don't have to think about all the time and money required to develop and prepare the site so that they can start construction, that's key. It's a key asset and a huge competitive advantage, and so the governor understands that, and he's focused on continuing to cultivate and develop sites. But that's really about it, Ben. The Lieutenant Governor has indicated some interest in so-called open enrollment, public-to-public school transfer. I'm still not sure if that would be across the board, consistent with the bill, Representative Jansen Owens' bill of the last session, which would have prohibited the district to which a student is attached from blocking a transfer to another public school, and the state money would thus follow them to the public school of their choice. The Lieutenant Governor has indicated an interest in that in the off session, but details are lacking. Don't really know to what extent would he support such a move. We shall see, for sure. Yeah, Landfill Management points out on our C Spire text line, Will, that Mississippi College, dropped their football program. Yeah. So forgot about that. Yeah, I think that's an example. It's just hard to make the economics work there. So
it's very difficult.
Yeah,
man.
Absolutely. So Mark from Salis says, I'm smoking our turkey this year, usually fry it, but trying a smoked one this year. That was earlier on in the day. I just caught that, and I'm hearing a lot of people are doing that. That was before our show, but I thought that was interesting. To expand on what you're saying, we rode the shuttle in with parents of a University of Florida player. This is from Michael Lightsey, realtor on the C Spire text line Saturday. And they said that Florida is spending $500 million, good grief, to renovate the swamp, but they're cutting 10,000 seats to make it more luxurious. I mean, Will, are we headed to a point where only the wealthy can afford to attend sporting events? Well, I can tell you, I've had a suite, full disclosure, in the South End Zone since 2003 when it was built. And in fact, the plan there was, you remember we used to have bleachers in the South End Zone, and the plan there was to bowl in the South End Zone, add the club and the suites atop, but every suite had to be sold before they put a shovel in the ground, pre-sale, if you will. So you're buying an idea, you're buying a drawing. And we did, and that was before 2003, I don't remember, but we had that for a 10-year lease, I think, and then it's a 5-year lease we're under now. But we got noticed going up rather significantly next year, significantly. So I think there's going to be some turnover there. Fox News, SuperTalk News is coming up next, and Matt Dowell, Executive Director at the Golden Triangle Regional Airport. Please stay with us.
Your hour of Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by the Mississippi Business Journal. Visit msbusinessjournal.com. Scott Coopwood, publisher and president.
And now, another hour of the talk that keeps Mississippi talking. Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Begin your transition now.
Now on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's hour 2 of Middays from the Element Wealth Studio. Don't forget, this is a Monday. That means Ricky Matthews, Super Talk Outdoors, takes over today at 12:05. But right now, it's Matt Dowell, Executive Director of the Golden Triangle Regional Airport. Hey, Matt, good to have you on.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
All right, give us an update on the flying industry in general with the shutdown. I know the FAA ordered airlines to reduce their flights, right, to try to cut back on some of the traffic. But apparently they're lifting that as of today, right?
As of today, it's business as usual. So we're telling everybody, book your tickets now for the holidays. I know some people have been a little skittish of that because of the government shutdown, but it's business as usual. You know, as you mentioned, back November 6th, the FAA actually announced that they were going to be reducing the number of flights by 10%. Then they came up with a plan to ramp it up. So they started with 4% on November 7th. On November 11th, they got all the way up to 6% flight cuts for the airlines at 40 different major airports. And then it froze there. Thankfully, the government shutdown is over now. And then as of November 17th today, they've lifted all the cuts for the airlines. So it is getting back business as usual.
All right, so how's it been during the shutdown? We haven't really talked to anyone in the aviation industry. How did it affect it from your perspective, in particular at the Golden Triangle Regional Airport?
Yeah, GTR was thankfully spared from a lot of those cuts, specifically coming and going to GTR. But once you get to those major 40 airports, you know, that's where you were feeling the hurt, the delays, the cancellations. You know, went from hundreds to thousands of cancellations and delays across the country. And, you know, we're a network of airports, and the network of airports work with the airlines. And so in order to get anywhere, you have to go through major hubs typically. And so once they start reducing cuts, you know, it's going to affect everybody's air travel to a certain extent. And so while coming and going from GTR wasn't a problem, when you made it to those larger airports where those cuts were happening, that's where you were running into trouble.
I see. So GTR is served by American Airlines and Delta. Is that correct?
That's right. So we go east, we go west, we go to the two largest hubs in America, both Atlanta and DFW, and those were on that list of 40 airports that were affected by the cuts that the FAA put in.
And then you also have outstanding general aviation capabilities as well with the FBO there.
That's right. Yeah, a lot of people think about commercial air service as being the only thing in town, but the truth is, like you mentioned, you have general aviation, you have military traffic, you have corporate, you have sports travel, all these charters coming and going, and then you have air service on top of it through the airlines. So there's a lot going on outside of the airlines, but obviously the airline traffic affects the day-to-day travel for a lot of people coming and going from the airport.
And I think it's fair to say that the airport, the Golden Triangle Regional, is a critical element of the region's economy.
That's right. I think so. The great thing about the airport is, this is a gateway for the community. So if you want to come and go, travel conveniently out of the Golden Triangle or into the Golden Triangle, the airport and the airlines are the most convenient way to do that, especially for long distances.
Yeah, it's big time. And I've certainly used the general aviation facilities multiple times. Always been very impressed. Great work there. So any future plans, any sort of expansion in any direction, perhaps additional airlines, any improvements to the runways, the facilities, the buildings themselves?
Yeah, we've been around 50 years, so we're always maintaining and trying to improve the facilities that we've had. That aging infrastructure over 50 years always needs maintaining. We're expanding the terminal right now to accommodate larger aircraft because aircraft that serve our region have continued to grow. We're working with our airline partners to try to add additional flights. We know specifically on American and Delta, our partners that are here, they're doing really well, and so we'd love to see them offer more flight frequencies. That makes it easier coming and going out of our community so that you can plan your travel when it's most convenient to you, especially leaving early in the morning, coming in the evening. I know our college students prefer to wake up a little later, not at our 6 a.m., so working with them on things like that. And then as our industry around the airport continues to grow, we're trying to grow to support all of those travel needs of that public.
We got the busy holiday travel season just around the corner here. What are your expectations?
Yeah, well, we had kind of seen that bookings in general across the entire industry were down a little bit due to what we saw with the shutdown and the cuts that the airlines were facing due to the FAA mandates. Now that those are lifted, we're starting to see those numbers come back very strong, which is why I encourage everybody, book now. It's never been a better time. Everything's getting back to normal and business as usual. So it's a great time to book, and don't put off the holiday travel tickets. It's as convenient as ever to fly for the holidays.
Is there any data that you have access to that discusses the cost of air travel this year, say, versus last year? Where do we stand on that?
Yeah, it's almost flatlined, which is kind of surprising. A lot of things have gone up significantly in cost, but things like fuel costs go directly to the airline's bottom line, and so now that we've seen fuel steady and coming down definitely off of its highs from previous years, that really helps them maintain a lower price point for their tickets.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's good to know that. So I don't think folks will perhaps be poised to see any major sticker shock as a result.
That's right. Yeah.
From last
year. There's
year.
always demand.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so you got an issue with demand and supply. So that's why we tell everybody book your travel as early as you can because it's not going to get any cheaper. As those flights fill up, then the cheap seats are gone.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Get on board. So did you guys experience any kind of problems with respect to air traffic control, TSA, et cetera, during the shutdown period?
So our federal employees that are here are the TSA. We actually have a contract tower, and so they were continuing to get paid under a contract. But TSA, we have 13 employees here that are federal employees, and they missed multiple paychecks. Thankfully, they continue to show up. They're very dedicated to their work, and they understand that that's how they're able to keep everybody safe and continuing to allow people to fly in and out of the airport. So my hat's off to them for their dedication. Despite not being paid for multiple paychecks, they continue to show up and do the job.
Yeah, well, good. I'm glad to know that, because that wasn't the case across the country, was it? We had several no-shows, calling in sick and so forth, and that's why I believe the FAA issued the mandate to the airlines to reduce their flights.
That's exactly right. They were having staffing issues, and that's why they ended up cutting 10%, or were working towards 10% cuts across the airline industry. TSA, like you mentioned, was also affected, so they were having skeleton crews working some of these larger airports. Thankfully, we did not have those same issues, but it was an issue across the country.
Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, as you know, earlier this year seemed to be a bit aghast, honestly, at the age of the information technology that's being used in controlling flights, from the air traffic control systems all the way through the scheduling systems and so forth, and has pledged to modernize those. Any information you have for us there?
Yeah, we're excited to hear that they are investing millions of dollars finally into upgrading our air traffic control system. It's been one of those issues that hasn't been broken, so why fix it? And now we're starting to see the age and the effect of those technologies, and so it's ripe for using modern technology, investing in it to continue making it the safest transportation system in the world. So we're excited about it. It is going to take time. It's still the safest transportation system, but it is due for an upgrade for sure. Well,
and you're probably aware that industry analysts predict that we're going to continue to increase the rate at which we fly via air. And thus, right, we need modern systems to accommodate the additional traffic. Otherwise, the skies won't be safe, and we won't be able to increase the amount of flights, which are necessary to power our economy. And I think people have realized that's still a lot better to meet in person than it is over computer screens.
I agree. Yeah, no, and like you said, forecasts are to show more demand for air travel, and so you got to have more capacity. You build in that capacity either with more people or technology or both, yeah, and that's really what their investment is. We need to continue. There's an aging workforce in air traffic control that needs to be fixed. There's a technology component to it that needs to be continued to upgrade and continue to excel in the air transportation. We're going to have to invest in both those things, which I'm thankful to see this huge investment and effort to modernize air traffic control.
Appreciate you coming on, Matt. Matt Dowell, Golden Triangle Regional Airport. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for having me.
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Let's do this.
On SuperTalk Mississippi.
Let's go.
I gotta have more cowbell.
They are going to be in Mississippi.
Blue Oyster Cult?
Blue Oyster Cult is going to be at Delta State.
Wow. How cool.
We did an article about it on supertalk.fm in the app last week. I'll have to pull up the dates, but it's going to be Blue Oyster Cult at one night. Another night, it's going to be Kansas.
Wow.
Carry On My Wayward Son, Dust in the Wind.
Yeah.
And then to White Yoakum.
Okay.
Again, it's not all the same night. It's different shows, but it's going to be at Delta State University. I'll pull that up.
Okay. Interesting. While you're doing that, the Supreme Court, has agreed to hear a case that originated in Mississippi. It concerns mail-in ballots. They're going to hear this case. And what the crux of this thing is, by the way, this was Republican National Committee, the Libertarian Party of Mississippi, sued the Secretary of State, Michael Watson. He, of course, is the official in the state who administers elections. And they argued that Congress alone can set a date by which voters must make their choice, not individual states. So in Mississippi, if you mail your ballot in, as long as it is postmarked by Election Day, the ballot, even though received after Election Day, is still counted. Now, I think I got this right. We allow 5 days after Election Day to receive ballots to be counted as long as they are postmarked by Election Day. Now, you can get pre-postmarked envelopes and stuff that you literally could send it in after Election Day, or it arrive after Election Day. Send it in after Election Day, more importantly, and it arrive within that 5-day window and still be counted. I don't know how big a deal it is, but there are 18 states that do allow for the counting of ballots that are postmarked on or before Election Day. That and the District of Columbia as well, by the way, that where those ballots will still be counted. And so they're trying to change this, essentially. The Attorney General is defending the Secretary of State in court, arguing that this 5-day window after Election Day does not provide additional days for voter to cast a ballot. It just gives them a cushion to allow the post office to deliver the ballot, provided it's been postmarked by the post office on or before Election Day. So this could have a ripple effect, this case, which, of course, originated here in Mississippi, across the entire country. I don't know that is a bit as big a risk, in my view, as the practice that is used in some states where they send a ballot to everybody in the voter rolls by mail. And those inevitably end up in the hands of people other than the actual registered voter. And they get completed, filled out, witnessed, sent in, and they get counted. You don't know if it's the actual voter themselves. They're supposed to check the signature and all that stuff. But that's a bigger problem, in my view, that opens up the door for fraud than perhaps anything else. And you got people registered in multiple states. And by the way, and that opens up the door for fraud. You vote in multiple states. There have been some cases where people have actually admitted, yeah, I voted in multiple states, and you're not supposed to. But you've probably seen over the weekend Secretary of Agriculture, Brooke Rollins, who says, we're going to make everybody in the SNAP program, the food stamps program, reapply for benefits. Because what we found is that there's 186,000 dead people getting SNAP benefits, and some 5,000 who are dual or multiple enrolled. These are IT systems problems. Those are easy to fix. The problem is, as we were just talking about with Matt Dowell concerning our air traffic control systems and the federal technology used to manage and control the nation's airways. Same problem, Will, throughout the rest of government. We have these ancient IT systems that really are not positioned functionality-wise, I should say, to deal with the real world. So in the SNAP program, how in the world are people who we know are dead, because all that's recorded digitally across the country, the death records, why in the world are we not bumping these benefit payments against those records to say, hey, is this person still alive? Do we find a death record? If we do, we're canceling your benefits. But no, we have terrible systems that don't have such a simple, straightforward capability. This is an IT problem.
And there's been no incentive.
Yeah, nothing.
To fix it.
Correct. This has been going on for decades. This just didn't start with the president's election, and then the people enrolled in multiple states, because the SNAP program is administered at the state level. Same as Medicaid. It's a huge problem in Medicaid, because here's the way that works. Virtually all the states have third parties, just as we do in Mississippi. They're called managed care operators, organizations, I should say, MCOs, and we pay them so much per enrollee. You got it. This is how much. Well, every state's doing that, And you've got people that are, and it may not even be intentional that they're gaming the system because it's not money to them. It pays providers. So it's not like, well, I can go enroll. It's not like SNAP. I can enroll in SNAP in multiple states, and I'm going to get multiple SNAP cards. Well, if you're enrolled in Medicaid in multiple states, you don't get any money from that as the enrollee. It's the third parties that are administering the programs, insurance companies. That, Centene was the big one here, a lot of controversy there. So what happens is a person doesn't bother to disenroll in the other state if they move between states in Medicaid. Just the same as they don't bother to call the circuit clerk and say, hey, look, take my name off the voting rolls. Nobody does that. It's same thing. So what ends up happening is multiple states are paying for Medicaid benefits, Medicaid insurance for the same person. That's an IT system problem. Why? Because the systems don't talk to each other. We've had Secretary of State Michael Watson on about the voting situation. There is a pact between some states, but not all, where they vet, hey, are you, registered in multiple states? And they have access to that. And now we have the SNAP program. So I guess maybe the good news, maybe some attention is being paid to this, and we're shining the light on this. So I applaud Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Rollins for recognizing this and taking some action. This is at the heart of this is an IT issue. This is easy. This is not hard IT, by the way, to just verify with the official vital records to determine, is this person still alive before we send their SNAP benefits out? I think I've shared on the show before my experience in working with the retirement system in Louisiana. 1981. Same issue. That we got involved and said, you guys are still sending checks out to a bunch of dead people. and then, like, one of the cases we'd found had been going on for like 18 years.
The person had been dead for 18
years?
Yes.
So what happens is usually their children, the offspring, intercept them and go cash them. Now, it's all paper back then, right? Yeah. So they just sign it, go cash it. Nobody cares. And we finally said, you could save a lot of money if we just get, and back in those days, Will, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have all this interconnectivity that we did today. We literally got a reel of tape, magnetic media tape, once a month from the Vital Records Department at the state of Louisiana, and we'd stick that sucker up on the big giant reel-to-reel drive, and we'd read it, and we'd bump that against the payee, the benefit payroll records in the retirement system and said, wait, this person's dead. Boom, we're cutting your benefits off. That was 1981. And before we got there, that wasn't happening. Now we're finding out this is happening at the federal level in 2025. That's pathetic.
What'd she say, 186?
186,000 dead people. Yeah, pathetic. So, easy fix for this, right? Easy fix. We need to integrate the systems across the states. We need to require it at the federal level. The federal level could even be the clearinghouse for this common data to make sure that that's inquired against before you approve these benefits, and you end up with people, as now we're finding out in the SNAP program, that are enrolled in multiple states and getting those SNAP cards and benefits. That's an easy one to fix. So, but again, at the heart of that is information technology, because it's all electronic systems. We're stepping aside for a break. Coming right back. We got half an hour remaining on this Monday of Middays. Please stay with us.
From the Seabrook. Get started today is with Gerard Gibert. It is on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Wealth Studio on the C Spire text line. Casey says from Ocean Springs, the savings would pay for the IT fixes. Oh, without a doubt, Casey. But it takes effort. It takes initiative, takes gumption. But when you heard, as we have since Secretary Duffy's been in place over the Department of Transportation, that the air traffic control systems in this country are still being operated by PCs with diskettes. That's literally how they update the software. It's local to the PC, and it's updated with diskettes. That's where we are, 40 years ago. And you think about the SNAP program, where we don't have integration among the states. The error rate in the country, and this is just what we know, is like 8%. And that doesn't have anything to do with dead people getting benefits. In Mississippi, it's over 10%. Now, one thing you recall is that in the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, there are now stipulations, provisions as a result of that passing of that legislation that require the states to absorb a certain percentage of the errors. And there are three levels. I can't remember the exact amount, but there's three levels of error percentages, and then the accompanying percentage of the error, the cost of the errors that the states would have to bear. Well, Mississippi's in the top level at more than 10%. Top level, the error rate, annual error rate, and administering the SNAP program. That means you're paying people that shouldn't be paid. And so, right now, the states bear little to none of that error rate. But the federal government, I agree with this policy. In the extension of the Trump tax cuts, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, in an effort to cut federal spending and federal wasteful spending, puts more of the responsibility on the states. You're either going to clean up your error rate or you're going to pay more for it. And Mississippi is in the highest range of errors as far as the penalty is concerned. 3 levels of penalty. Are you looking at that? Well, I can't remember. I don't have it committed to memory, but I know there are 3 different tiers. And it's if your error rate is between this number and this number, this is how much you got to pay states. And this number, this is how much you got to pay. Well, we're at the top, the 3rd level in Mississippi. I think 10.8% is our error rate. So, but you're absolutely right, Casey, that just modernizing our information technology systems, it's the way to address all this waste, fraud, and abuse in government. Finding out after the fact and trying to claw that back, that's impossible. You can't do that.
Always difficult.
Yeah, you can't do that. And to your point, Casey, I got to share another little quick personal story. When my company was charged with remedying the Y2K problem for the New Jersey Department of Corrections. One of the things we found as part of that process, Will, is that there was a lot of literally collusion going on between the custody officers to scam the overtime system. They had very lucrative overtime policies that had been won by a very powerful union. And these guys would scam it. They'd figure out a way to get their buddies to cover for them and make it look like they were actually working overtime when they weren't. And we had done some research on that. Our project team, my company project team, we determined that was costing them several $1 million a year in incorrectly paid overtime. Because these officers they had crazy stuff like, well, if you work and it's your regular day off, they call it the RDO, and it's a holiday, you get like 5X time. Crazy stuff like that the union had negotiated. And we found out, the union members are scamming this thing because they didn't have systems, right? They couldn't detect it. And we included in our timekeeping system that we designed for them, very complicated because of all the union rules. It had all kinds of controls built into it. And you know what? We took that number down to almost nothing after it was implemented. That's an example of how modern, properly designed IT systems can curb, address, and eliminate all this scamming that's going on. Because where there's big government money, there's big waste, fraud, and abuse. And the SNAP program is one of them. So I applaud Secretary Wallins. I will tell you this. Here's my concern about saying, hey, everybody, you got to go re-enroll. You know what my concern is? We're going to end up with more people on the rolls. And here's why. Because I think they're going to call attention to the fact that these benefits are available to people in this country that don't even know they're available. If you went out on the street, I'll give you an example, and said, hey, if you went to work, do you know you could get Medicaid if we had a Medicaid expansion and work requirement associated with that, which is now what is true in the states that expanded. You got to work, right? If you went and asked that question in Mississippi, you know what I think most people would say? What's Medicaid? Right?
Yeah.
I think we're going to call attention to the SNAP program, and people are going to come out of the woodwork. Wait, the government will send me money to buy food? I swear I think that's going to happen. And they're going to qualify and sign up. Now, hopefully, as part of that, we'll eliminate people that don't qualify. But most of that could easily be fixed with modernizing the IT systems, like paying dead people. The dead people ain't going to come up and reapply. Let's just fix the thing so that we check to see if they're dead before we send them money. Does that just not illustrate how screwed up government is right there?
I mean, it's just so messed up.
Oh, man.
There's no incentive to fix it. A company that, you know this, a company that has an issue like that, if you're issuing checks to a dead person, they have an incentive to go and fix it.
Oh, there's no doubt. In the private sector.
The government just doesn't.
That's exactly right. It's like Rhino likes to say, it's not my problem people. And in the private sector, if you keep anybody around that has that attitude, if it's not my problem, your company will fail.
Yes.
Because the market will punish your butt. Nobody ever wants to hear from somebody that says, oh, that's not really my problem. I'll have to connect you with another department. It does happen in the private sector in some places, but they typically don't do too well in the market. There's a company right now, I can't remember the name of it, it's got ads going on, that sells carpet. And they go through that where they have a clerk that's selling the carpet and like their competitor, and it's, oh, we have this and that and this and that, but I don't do any of that. And nobody wants to hear that. And that's what we have. That's why we've got to modernize our system. This sort of stuff, the vast majority of it, could be handled to make sure that we're only paying people who are legitimately entitled to these benefits, including people who are actually alive. And that applies for other programs as well. Again, by improving the quality and modernizing and getting in the 20th century these systems, there's no reason why the states in this country aren't communicating electronically with each other to make sure there's no crossover and enrollment in multiple states. That's an easy one to fix. Easy. But yet we're relying on people and old bad systems to catch that, and it doesn't work very well. That's the bottom line. So I'm glad to see that the Secretary is calling attention to that. Also, you probably saw the President announced, actually his Treasury Secretary did before he weighed in on it, that they are dropping the tariffs on bananas and certain other food products, rolls back the tariffs on really dozens of items, coffee, bananas, beef, to escape these tariffs. Avocados, tomatoes, coconuts, mangoes, a whole bunch of goods. And so I think that this administration is starting to focus more on affordability. And I think they better, honestly, leading up to the midterms. Now, maybe this is the strategy that, if you think about it, most of the wins notched by this administration since the president took office in January have been on the international front. Lots of wins there, stopping some of these wars, devastating Iran's nuclear capability, cutting deals with other countries to invest here, the tariffs, of course, all that more of an international flavor. Venezuela, the border, all that I think you could say is more related to life outside of the country. It does affect, of course, life inside, but nothing like what stuff costs. That's what people pay attention to. And I think we're going to see the president and this administration focus highly on that. Now, one of those ideas that I'm not a big fan of is dropping more money out of helicopters. This $2,000 being described as a dividend is really kind of hard to accept. It's a dividend when the country's still running $1.8, $2 trillion deficits. We don't really have the money. We literally would have to go borrow money to send everybody $2,000 checks, which I think is one of the main reasons we saw inflation spike during the Biden administration. So let's not make that same mistake. I hope at the end of the day we don't do that. Coming back with a final segment next.
Up of Mississippi.
We're going to do this.
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Keep rolling. 3, 2, 1.
On SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. Final segment. Also, the Mississippi Department of Education announced that the Okolona Separate School District is under a district of transformation. That was announced on Friday due to, quote, serious financial impairments that threaten the district's ability to provide students with an adequate and stable educational environment, end quote. Boy, that's interesting. Didn't see that coming. So you're a little familiar with that district, aren't you?
I grew up about 10 miles away from it.
Yeah.
They've had some issues over the years. The academics have improved. I believe that school district was taken over by the state. Gosh, it's probably been a decade ago now.
Yeah.
It was pretty bad shape. And their academics have since improved significantly. But this has to do with finance,
yeah, and you wonder if there are more that might be under consideration as well for this transformation designation. Also, we talk a lot about school choice on this program. I know our friend Ben from Madison is a proponent of education freedom in Mississippi and regularly sends us texts related to that. But the Mississippi Today, not surprising, not a fan of school choice. They align more with the Democrats in this state and the education establishment. Well, they got a piece here on the Teacher of the Year in the state of Mississippi, who writes that school choice would derail Mississippi's education momentum, that more freedom granted to Mississippi families would derail our progress on the education front. Oh, wow. She says now is not the time to pull away from a shared system that is working. Vouchers and unaccountable choice schemes threaten the progress of the many in favor of a few. And, you know, my initial reaction always when I see that, Will, which is what you typically get from opponents, is, well, what are you worried about? If it's all working so great. And I agree. We have made tremendous strides. And I'm proud of that. Our governor is. We should all be. Certainly our family should be. Our teachers, our administrators, our schools. Absolutely. But if that's the case, by giving people a choice, you should be fine. Who in the world would want to move if everything is so coming up roses? So what's the fear? I don't get it. If you're delivering value for families and they like what they're receiving, they ain't going anywhere. But if they're not, give them a way out. That's all we're asking for here. So the adage, she goes on to say, it takes a village to raise a child, has never been truer. I disagree with that. That, to me, whenever I see that, it suggests that government should have a key role. Now, I agree that you spend a lot of time as a child in school. And you learn a lot in school. You're exposed to a lot. Completely agree. But sometimes that setting's not working out for certain children. So give those parents a choice. And again, if it is working out so well, which I believe it is across the state, we've seen that in the data, in the numbers. I talked about it with the Sun from the UK on Saturday. Sure, it's something to tout from the mountaintops, and good Lord, we've seen states across this country take note of it. Now the UK is taking note of it, which is good stuff, but then we got no worries. Give people a choice. Let them figure it out on their own. The market will sort it out. They get bad outcomes, and they'll come running back. Simple as that. By the way, the SNAP error rates and associated penalties, below 6%, states don't pay anything. 6 to 8%, states have to pay 5% of their total SNAP benefits. They literally have to reimburse the federal government if their error rates between 6 and 8, 8 and 10, 10%. 10 or higher, 15%. I'm sad to report that Mississippi sits at 10.8. We're among the highest states in terms of the error rate. I'm looking at a map of it right now, an interactive map. Although we're not the highest, believe it or not, Georgia, 15.65% error rate. Florida, we always look to Florida as kind of being a model for what we'd like to see in Mississippi. Florida, 15%. New York, 14%. New Mexico, 14%. Oregon, 14%. Mississippi, 10.69%. Alabama, 8.38%. Tennessee, 9.47%. Arkansas, 9.56%. Louisiana, 6.62%. Texas, 6.32%. We got some work to do there. And, Will, this is going to cost general fund money from the state of Mississippi. I promise this will be a big topic when we start interviewing legislators when the session gets underway, because this is going to take effect, and Mississippi is going to be on the hook. We are out of time here today. Thanks so much for joining us. Back with you again tomorrow. Until then, stay safe and God bless everyone.
SuperTalk Mississippi Media Production.